Hey guys, the Mythbusters series for Rainbow Six Siege has finally returned. We have been thoroughly checking every single hitbox for every single character in Rainbow Six Siege for this episode. So we're going to be doing that, but first, let's test some brand new myths and enjoy. You can shoot under some walls in Hereford. So this is something I noticed on one of Matimio's videos, and he actually shot a crossbow bolt under this wall and killed a guy that was hiding behind it. Now you can actually do this on quite a few walls on Hereford. So you've got this wall down here, and of course you can fire the crossbow bolt and actually have it light up behind the wall. So really good if you're up against someone who's camping in a corner. But also there's more than one place where you can do this. You can shoot underneath here from either side as well. You can be on a defender side shooting in this direction, or you can actually be the attacker side outside shooting in. And it's great to be able to take out an enemy player without putting yourself in real threat, so that's really cool. But also there's a few other locations that are really handy. For instance, you've got the bed in this room. The wall behind it is actually raised off the ground as well. And again, you can put crossbow bolts underneath that wall and actually light up the other side. So really handy if you're attacking from this perspective and there's a defender hiding behind there. It is absolutely wonderful way to take someone down. So that is confirmed. You can detonate breaching charges while firing. So this is something I only found out recently, and it's wonderful for me because I love to go and fuse people below, but usually there's some sort of roamer who decides to come and get me, and I usually pick between either shooting them or setting off my charge. Now I don't have to choose. I can actually shoot, even though I might not accurately hit the target. At least I can shoot while I'm actually detonating my charge, which I think is really cool, and means you can potentially get both the defender who's roaming and the ones down below. So that is confirmed. You gain extra points after the round ends. So this is something I think everybody does, is when a round ends, you actually shoot like a gadget, like a drone or a Jaeger active defense system or a welcome mat. You destroy something, anything you can see. You don't really do it for the extra points, but do you actually get extra points for doing that after the round is over? So what we have here is 2 operators, and then we have a breaching charge and a drone. So I'm going to kill both of them and then immediately take out the drone and the breaching charge once the round has actually ended. So you can see here we get 2 injuries, 50 points apiece. We get 2 kills, 50 points apiece as well. And then we get our match victory points. So we should have, after it's all been calculated, 5,015 points. And the scoreboard shows 5,015. Even though we did take out the gadgets, we didn't get those extra points. So that is busted. Now this is a revisit of an old myth, and it is whether IQ can actually see friendly gadgets, and she used to be able to. So now she doesn't, which is really good. It no longer clutters up IQ's HUD, and it means anything you do see is an enemy, which is really cool. So that is confirmed, and that's a really nice buff for IQ. Hitboxes are now human body only. So me and the guys, we went and tested every single character in the game, every single hitbox. We're going to have a separate video up that will show you the complete detail of those tests, but we're going to just go through the kind of highlights of every single character and let you know what's changed. First up we have Mute. Now his baggy trousers appear to be completely in his hitbox. So they've really not been reduced down to kind of normal leg thickness at all, but he's had a significant buff when it comes to his head hitbox. So the actual gas mask has made a big difference here, being removed from the hitbox entirely. So we can't shoot him here at all. But what is very interesting is actually the goggles on his gas mask. You can actually shoot straight through them and not get a headshot. So pretty significant chunk of his head has disappeared. And the same with Smoke, the gas mask just completely gone. A significant change to Castle appears to be his back. Quite a significant part of the back is gone. Even though the armor doesn't look that thick, it really has kind of taken off quite a chunk of his actual back. And the rest of him is pretty much what you would expect. And we've definitely seen a reduction in his shoulders. The knee pads on Pulse as well are being reduced. And a little bit the paddiness and a little bit the bagginess of the trousers as well. You can see all the pouches and all that. no longer in the hitbox. And of course his head is pretty much exactly the same as it was before. Now the 3 armor operators, I was expecting them to actually be a lot smaller now, hitbox wise. They haven't really got that big a buff when it comes to their actual body. They still seem to be quite tubby, it would seem. Still got really big shoulders that you can easily hit, and the armor doesn't appear to be that thick if we're going by the hitbox. So I thought the 3 armor operators were going to get a far bigger buff, whereas they haven't really, as far as I can tell. Even things like Chachanka's trousers here, which are very, very baggy, especially this bit at the back here. It really, like, when I go prone here, you can tell that is definitely not his leg. If he must have some really weird legs if that is actually part of his leg. But yeah, that is part of the leg indeed. So they're definitely not entirely human body, but they're damn close. Like, certainly they're way more accurate to the human body than they ever were before. And especially like Chachanka's helmet, he's probably had at least, what, a 10 to 20% reduction in size of head hitbox. That's pretty damn significant when it comes to a firefight, so really impressive there. And it kind of buffed Chachanka in a little bit, but he's still got a rather large head to shoot at. But the real winners from this is the German operators, because they had ridiculously big headgear when it came to their outfits. And now, because their head is now normal sized heads, they are a hell of a lot harder to hit. So pretty significant, especially when you take into effect that Jaeger is the spawn camper, you know, known for his spawn camping anyway. And you're pretty much only going to see his head when you see him in a window. And his head is now like at least probably 30 to 40% smaller than it was. It's pretty damn significant and a really good buff for all the German operators. And yeah, Blitz and Jaeger should be very, very happy about this update. They are going to be that little bit harder to kill now, which of course is great for already powerful characters. And yeah, look at the size of Jaeger's head here. Like, that is significantly smaller than it was. Like, it's crazily small compared to what it was before, which is incredible for any Jaeger mains out there, and I'm sure there is many of them. The characters though that really miss out on getting a buff from this is all the females, because all of them really have either pretty skimpy or pretty tight uniforms. You know, they're not exactly MMO, you know, 2 bits of cloth type uniforms, but really they all have pretty tight to the body clothing, so there's not much, even like the pouches and the odd bit of head decoration really hasn't changed them much. They're pretty much got the same hitbox, maybe reduced by 5 or 10% from the previous. Even Frost, who probably has the kind of baggiest of clothes out of all the operators for the females, not much of a difference, really quite similar. And although we do obviously see stuff like the knee pads, the neck parts, but then all the DLC operators actually have not got much of a buff out of this, because none of them are particularly fat. Like, even Echo here, who is a 3 armor operator, isn't exactly the biggest operator. You know, he's nowhere near the size of Rook and all that. And of course, Cav, pretty much no change here, because she's pretty much wearing a skin tight uniform and makes no difference in this update whatsoever to her kind of hitbox at all, although she does appear to be missing part of her butt for some reason. So there's a slight bit of butt missing there, but otherwise she is exactly the same as she was to the patch previously. And then Mira, who's always been a really skinny girl for a 3 armor operator, has not much in the way of armor, and her hitbox really hasn't changed much. Although when she came out, she already had a really good hitbox. Like, she has a backpack on, and that wasn't in the hitbox when she was released, when the Velvet Shell came out. So they may have already been thinking about making human-sized hitboxes. However, what has changed for Mira is the fact that her helmet is no longer part of her hitbox, and that really does reduce the size of her head. And for a 3 armor operator, she's pretty damn small. She really is, so she's a good choice when it comes to survivability in a firefight. Then we have Thatcher here, who has the same baggy trousers as Mute, but I did notice that he seems to have thinner legs than Mute. There's definitely a kind of reduction in the size of his legs compared to Mute, where we didn't see that before. And of course, Gas Mask no longer part. And then Sledge here, who was kind of awkwardly kind of stroking his hammer. I didn't know he did this. Kind of freaky after a while. But again, Gas Mask not part. Now what I did notice is that trigger fingers are actually not included in the hitbox, along with some like thumbs and stuff. So I guess there's probably a limitation in detail of the actual hitbox itself. So things like trigger fingers maybe can't be modeled. And then of course we've got Ash, who has been accused of not having a hitbox at all. And her hitbox is more or less exactly the same as it was previously, except for the few pouches she's got kind of popping out. Otherwise, she's pretty much exactly the same as she was before. And then we've got Twitch, who has definitely got the largest of armor compared to all the females. Hasn't seen much of a reduction. She's definitely lost a little bit of kind of padding on the sides and stuff. But you can see the 3 armor up here really haven't lost much. Those big shoulders really apparently don't have much in the way of armor. It doesn't make much difference to the actual hitbox whatsoever, which is quite surprising to me. I wasn't expecting that. And again, you can see no trigger finger hitbox there at all. And of course we have Blitz. So Blitz finally got a reduction to his head hitbox, which definitely makes him more viable. I've been playing him a lot more now, and he's a lot more interesting to play. But he's definitely not the operator with the biggest buff out of this. I would say Jaeger is definitely the one getting the biggest increase in survivability in firefights and reduction in headshot ability. And back again to the females, we've got IQ. So other than our head hitbox, nothing much else has changed, but certainly her head is a hell of a lot smaller now, and does kind of bring her more on par with Ash when it comes to kind of total hitbox size, but she's still a touch bigger than Ash. But I would say they've actually gone and fixed my previous discovery, which was that part of her bum wasn't actually in the hitbox. It now appears to have been corrected, and she now does have a correct hitbox for her butt. So there we go. Now Buck was quite an interesting one to test. He's obviously got quite a lot of kind of puffy bits on his armor that now don't result in any kind of hit. But also what I was interested about was the actual hand movement from going from a shotgun to primary. The hitbox does actually move with the hand, which is really cool. That's a nice little bit of detail. I wasn't actually expecting that to be the case. And again, trigger finger not part of the hitbox at all, so don't shoot someone in the trigger finger. Now we did have an odd discovery with Capital, and that is that his nose isn't actually in the hitbox, which was very surprising. Like a big chunk of the front of his face. Now on the Blackbeard here, there's not much change to Blackbeard at all. His helmet certainly has seen his head hitbox reduced, but I would say pretty marginally. And then Jackal has had a major buff, because that sensor that was on the front of his head was part of his actual hitbox and is no longer part of the hitbox at all. So that definitely makes his head way smaller. So that's good for anyone who plays Jackal. Up next we have Habana, and again a very well-fitting outfit, so there's not much to kind of reduce here when it comes to hitbox size. Pretty much all of her leg is included, apart from the kind of back of her leg there, but more or less she's very similar in size of head hitbox, unless you're getting a profile view, and then really that hoodie really does reduce the size of the head hitbox for Habana. Again, no trigger finger in the hitbox. And then we are on to Fuse. So Fuse, pretty much, you know, he's a 3 armor operator, but we're not really seeing that much of a reduction in his overall hitbox size. You would think they would have thicker armor on. That would be my kind of assumption anyway. And they really don't seem to actually reduce considerably like we've seen with other level 1 operators. So Glaz and Fuse are still relatively big targets compared to the level 1 operators, and definitely seem to be bulkier when it comes to their hitboxes. I thought perhaps we'd all have the same hitbox, like all the males would have the same ones, all the females would have the same hitbox, but it does look like everyone is slightly different from each other. And of course we have the recruit, who has pretty much had no change to the hitbox because he's got no pouches or anything. So I'm going to confirm that, yeah, they are human body size hitboxes now. Now I'm going to recommend the obvious Mythbusters series by Mr. Bri. This is a series that I found hilarious, but he actually stopped making them because he got a lot of negative comments on them. But I thought they were freaking awesome and really funny, so go check them out. If you think they're funny, leave a really good bit of feedback that is very positive, and maybe he'll do some more, because I want to see some more, because I freaking love them. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll catch you next time.